Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk about meditation and the bliss that comes with meditation, but also the other side of what happens in meditation. Because meditation, when you practice regularly and you have consistency with meditating, even if it's 20 minutes a day, maybe even 10 minutes a day, when you are meditating, you are connecting to your energetic field. And it allows you to move energy that's trapped in the body, where, let's for example say, where there are root causes for certain things in your life that can manifest as illness or anxiety, depression. All of the things that manifest in our reality is because there are emotions stuck within our body. So there is this release of energy that happens when you start to meditate regularly and start to implement ways to rewire, to become someone else, to become another identity, so that you can become the best version of yourself. So it takes a lot of work. It's not just the meditation process, but it's also what you do and how you behave and how you move through life, so that the meditation will be an enhancement to the changes that you're physically making on your daily life. So there's this release of energy that happens when you start to really give time to be with yourself. And when you do this regularly and you begin to give time to be with yourself in that stillness and that nothingness, for me, I like doing both sides of meditation. I like doing meditation on my own, but I also love guided meditations. The meditations I use that are guided, like I have mentioned before, are Joe Dispenza's meditations, which I believe are life-changing. And I've had my experiences through using his meditation, as well as subtle experiences when I've just been meditating through my own with just the awareness of my breath. But there's another side to meditation that many people are afraid of, because they think that awakening this life force energy that is within you is chaotic. And I believe, from the experience that I had, that that is part of what I have been experiencing since 2022 to the present day, today. Okay, so like I had mentioned in my video where I spoke about meditation, my meditation experience, that year of 2021, like starting the March 28th forward, I was totally in a state of like bliss and gratitude and wholeness, and I didn't need anything. I didn't need to buy anything, because I noticed that throughout my life, I try to buy things to fill a void. And if I want something, I buy it. Or if I'm interested in something and I see it and somebody else has it too, and then I feel like I'm being kind of like pressured to also have it too. It's this weird thing that our brains does to like fill it in a void. So I know that there are many times that I would go and like buy myself something just to buy it, and at the end it wouldn't really fill anything. It was just the impulse of like buying it for the sake of me feeling good that I bought it. So I noticed that was like a repetitive loop that was not really smart. But we all tend to do that. We all tend to do that. So what happens was that when I had that experience, I became so whole that I didn't need anything. I didn't need to buy anything. I didn't have the need to do nothing. I didn't need nothing. Everything is like within me. And I was so interconnected with myself and the entire universe at this point that I did not feel the need of, I didn't need anything. I had everything and everything was within me. So I didn't need absolutely nothing from the outside. Nothing would call my attention. Nothing, I wouldn't want to buy anything. Like I didn't need to. So I was feeling that way for most of 2021. Like from March 28th onward. And on February of 2022, okay, almost a year after my meditation experience, that I was like on the top of a mountain feeling so elevated where nothing bothered me, not my parents, not anybody, nothing didn't matter. Like I was just fully in my energy, even in my chaotic environment, right? On February of 2022, I had met up with my ex that I thought because my energy had changed, my energy was going to help influence him to also want to heal. Because we always want to heal the people around us. That's something that I noticed that we all really want to do, is try to heal the people around us. So I met up with him, we hung out, and I noticed that when we went to go watch a movie, and when we got back from the theater, my ear was itching so bad. My ear was just itching. The next morning I wake up and my ear is like, it was so itchy. And I was starting to get pain and I couldn't hear properly. So I ended up going to the doctor about a week and a half later, mind you, while I was struggling with my ear, because I was like so sure that I could heal my own ear problem, that I was meditating and doing everything I could to try to heal my ear, and I wasn't getting anywhere, and it was just getting worse. And I think that I was trying too hard. And I ended up going to like the doctor, and they were like, "Oh, you have an infection." They gave me some ear drops. The infection actually worsened, and then about a week later, mind you, I was like this for most of February. All of February, in the beginning of March, I was having a really bad infection in my ear. And within like, when I finally went to see an ENT, which was almost 3 weeks later of me having constant pain, and it was like my ear inside was swollen. I have this inner voice inside me that tells me, Susie, you know, sometimes when you don't listen, things happen. Like, this is a way of the universe letting you know that you were not listening. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, what do you mean I wasn't listening? So basically what I understood was that I went back to my ex knowing deep inside that I could not do anything to change him. But because I had changed energetically, I thought that, my energy could influence him to change. So I was doing something that I knew that I should not be doing deep inside, but I still did it anyway because I did not really want to be around him. But I made myself believe that I did because of the idea of not being alone and trying to save a relationship that I knew was completely broken. But I thought because I had a new energy that it was going to be different. My ear situation was so bad that when I saw the ENT told me, "Oh, you have a very serious infection and you have a hole in your eardrum." And I was like, "What?" He put this powder in my ear. My ear instantly, within like an hour, started to feel better. They prescribed me wrong antibiotics. I was on antibiotics for 20 days. Then they prescribed me another antibiotic, which this time it was an antibiotic that was for fungus, because they were just guessing. They didn't know what it was. They were just guessing. And when I saw the side effects of that antibiotic, I was like, no, we are not doing this, because it was like it can cause heart rupture, muscle rupture, aorta rupture. The side effects were so severe that I was like, no, there's no way I'm taking this. I called and I'm like, I need another antibiotic. There's no way I'm going to take this. The side effects are not worth for me to take. I'd rather deal with the ear than to take those antibiotics. So what I'm trying to get at is that my inner guidance told me that I was experiencing this problem in my ear because I didn't pay attention. I didn't understand that I'm not supposed to think that I can change people. And that was kind of like a way of me like you're not listening, you're not paying attention, so now you can't hear from this side, from my left ear. And I was like, that makes totally perfect sense, because the universe talks to you in like mysterious ways where you would never really, if you don't really catch on, you probably will not understand the message. So I understood the message. And my ear was like that for almost a month and a half until I finally started to get better. And I met my ex one last time on July 5th to pick up a shirt that I had left there, because there were we broke up, but there were still things of mine that were there, and I had left a shirt, and I went to pick up my shirt because we were going to go to Colorado and I wanted to take that shirt. And lo and behold, he was sick, and he gave me the dreadful CV-19. And that was a whole other experience. 2022 for me was the beginning of my nightmare. All of my anger started to show up. All of my frustration was showing up. All of my wounds were starting to show up. I went from a high peak mountain to the bottomless pit of the well, like literal well. And at this point, I didn't understand what was going on, okay? Because I went from having that virus to my sister also getting it. We all got it. We all had it in Colorado without even knowing, because we landed in Colorado and I started to feel bad. And by the time that I was positive, it was like the following day, because I had a fever. And then my sister ended up getting really bad, like really, really sick from that. It was traumatizing. I'm not even going to say, I was angry at my ex because he would deny to me that he had it when he did. And my sister's husband got it. We all had it. Our trip was basically ruined, okay? All because I went to pick up a shirt. And I still feel a sense of guilt because I should have never gone. But it is what it is, because it was a learning experience at the end of the day. So fast forward to all that, everything that I went through, I was so angry. I was so mad. I was so upset. And one day I was sitting in my room. This is already like, maybe that was July. This was maybe like September. I was sitting in my room and I was taking a picture, like a selfie, and I had my legs crossed. And when I got up, I saw the UPS going to deliver something. I got up, and when I got up, I felt like a weakness in my leg. And my brain automatically assumed that something was wrong, and I called 911. I asked, and not 911, I called urgent care, and urgent care was like, oh, maybe it's your, they gave me like all these things where I got freaked out, and I thought that I was literally dying of something, because my mind associated weakness with some illness. And the girl in urgent care was like, yeah, you should go to urgent care. You should get seen. And then I talked to a friend of mine that's a nurse, and she was like, Susie, hold on, no. Take your blood pressure. I took my blood pressure. She goes, like, no. She goes, sometimes maybe you had your legs maybe in a certain way, and maybe that caused like maybe your blood flow was not flowing because you had it in a position where that when you got up, you felt a little weakness, but it doesn't mean anything. Point is that obviously it wasn't nothing, but since that day on, I started to go through real crazy stuff. I'm talking about, hi, I have a baby. Well, she's not a baby, but I have a beautiful mama duck here. I started to go through a lot of every single night. It was like I did not know if I was going to make it to the following night because my symptoms were so severe. I was having like, I would lay down and I would feel like if I was dropping, like the sensation in my body was like I was dropping from like a tall building, and I kept like, I was kind of dizzy. I was feeling extreme beyond control anxiety. I constantly said, if I make it through today and I wake up tomorrow, I know that I can make it the next day. I spent about 2 months in this very weird symptom craziness that I could not explain. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. It felt energetic. Like it felt like it was energy. And the more that I would meditate, the more that I feel like I was adding more energy to the energy that I was feeling already. So at this point, I started to realize that this was possibly life force energy, which is also known as Kundalini, was moving through my body, and all of these things started to surface, all of these emotions, all of this fear, anxiety. I have no idea how many versions of me died during that time, because every single day, every single night, I was literally, a version of me was just dying, but it felt like it was literally happening to me. And I went through that for like 2 months. And then after those 2 months passed, I was able to have more of a regular life, but I had really bad anxiety. I had like weird sensations in my arms and my hands, and weird sensations that were not explainable. And then if I would go to the doctor, they'll be like, everything is fine, and you'd be like, what is going on? Like, how is it that I'm feeling like this? Or there has to be something wrong. And that is the other side of when you wake up this energy. And many people are afraid of it because it brings up all of your anxiety, and they manifest as physical symptoms, and you feel like versions of you, or like you feel like you literally are dying every single day. And I remember telling myself, well, if I survived last night, I can survive this night. And I was alone through all this because nobody paid attention to me. And I would cry because I was so scared, because I could not explain the symptoms and I didn't know what was happening. But I know that it was energetic. I know that there was an energy to it, and it was terrifying me. So as I move along and time went on, it got better, but a lot of other things started to happen. Like, for example, that was 2022, and in 2023, like the ending of 2022, I would say November of 2022, I've always been very skinny, but I noticed that when I would go swimming, I would feel like there was a weight in my stomach, and I didn't know what it was. And no, I just know that I couldn't eat properly, and I could not. I would get really bloated and really breathless and uncomfortable. And at November, like the end of November of that year, I started to get the symptoms were a lot worse, and I always had like a belly no matter what I would do, and I looked like I was having a baby, like if I had a baby there. And I went to see a doctor. She was automatically like, "Stat, get an ultrasound right now. She's like, you are pregnant." And I was like, no, I'm not. There is no way that I'm pregnant, because I have not been with anyone in over a year. Like I had not seen my ex in over a year. And there was like, no way. Not over a year, because I saw him in February, but that I had not done anything with him, it had been over a year. So I was like, no. There is no way. So they do the ultrasound, whatever, and they tell me that there was a fibroid in my uterus. All of this happened because of that energy that moved through, that just surfaced everything. Everything. And everything that I was afraid of came up. One thing that I was afraid of my whole entire life was having to have surgery, having to do something surgical. I was terrified of that my entire life. I had never broken a bone. Something that I was terrified of. So what happens is that was the ending of 2022 and the beginning of 2023. I went through all these different options trying to see. I was meditating, trying to shrink it myself, because I find out later on they didn't know how big the size was. They knew that it was large, but they did not know how really the size of it was, because the ultrasound cannot really take the dimensions because it was bigger than what they saw on the ultrasound. So I went to get an MRI done. The MRI is done, and it was the size of a honeydew melon. Mind you, I am 4'9" in height, and my weight at that time was like 105 pounds. So I looked like I was very pregnant. Very pregnant. And people will always tell me, "Oh, how many months are you?" And I was like, "I don't understand. Like, why are you guys saying that I'm pregnant? Like, I'm not." Because I was in denial of the way that what was, I didn't know first that was there. And for some reason, I didn't connect that there was something there. I didn't think anything of it. And that's because I was in denial. And I didn't want to check, but it turns out that it was a fibroid outside of the uterus. And that plays into another story of when I was 19 years old, and I had to have an abortion. And I think that also plays a role in the creation of that fibroid. So that's a story for another day. Okay, but there's a connection with the fibroid and the abortion that I learned later on to connect dots, because everything that we experience is connected to something that we keep within us, right? So I had to trust. First, first I had to talk to a surgeon, and I talked to the girl that was basically where I did the ultrasound, which is what the gynecologist that I go to, and she was like, "Look, it's too big, and we need to basically open you up, like make like a T shape." And I was like, "No, there's no way you're gonna you're gonna cut like a fish. No, there's no way." And I went looking for other options. I found the surgeon that was meant for me, and I'm forever grateful for him, because he treated me with so much humanness and kindness. And he saw me unlike a woman who didn't care about me. She even told me that, my chances of keeping my uterus were very low, and she didn't care about me. And I wanted to keep my uterus. It was very important for me to keep my body parts. I didn't want them to remove my uterus. And they do, a lot of women, without even realizing, and they just remove it without your consent. They just say, "Oh yeah, there was too much blood, we need to take it out." So I already knew a lot about this, so I was not going to allow them to do that unless it was necessary. And this surgeon that I met, he was very conscious about that. And he told me, "Look, if there is no need for it, I'm not going to touch it. It is going to stay there." Well, I did a lot of healing work. I went back, and I cleared every energy with every person that I ever had an issue with, or that we had a conflict, or we'd ended in bad terms. I went back and I cleared all of those connections with people, with my ex, with my ex's mom, with some guy that I had met, that was a friend at one point, that I went through like a whole entire healing process before going into surgery. So what I'm saying is that meditation leads you to a very beautiful place. But if you do not have you don't work with your wounds, they're going to show up, and they're going to come in ways that you don't imagine. And the dots are meant for you to connect. You have to start to become so conscious and so aware that you have to connect these dots. And that's exactly what meditation allowed me to do. And there was a point where I was like, why me? Why me? Why do I have to go through all this? Why do I have to experience this severe anxiety? Why do I have to feel so? Was that fibroid there? Why? Why do I have to do surgery? I prepared. First of all, I was against surgery. I tried to shrink the fibroid myself. I would wake up at 4 in the morning to meditate. Okay. I did everything I could in my power, but there was a bigger lesson for me that I had to trust a human being for the first time with my life. Okay. And I'm grateful that I found this surgeon who allowed me to trust him to the extent that I accepted the surgery. And I trained my body, my cells. I would speak to my body every single day. Because if there's one thing that you learn in meditation is that your body reacts and responds to your thoughts and to what you believe. And I told my body, okay, we're going to make it through the surgery. We're going to be strong. We're going to be resilient. We're not going to need pain medications, okay? We're going to be able to heal from this in the best way possible. Okay, I told myself and I told my cells every single day how strong my body was, how my body would handle the pain with grace, that I would be capable of doing things myself, that I would, I told my body that it was going to be okay, that we were going to be safe, and that everything was going to work out, and that my body was going to handle the surgery with grace, and that I was going to be able to recuperate properly, and that everything was going to be fine. And I kept telling my mind that, and I kept letting my cells know that, and I kept believing myself no matter what. And I never took a single medication for pain. They had, the surgery I had was invasive surgery. It's considered a very invasive surgery. I mean, they had to take out my uterus out and move around organs to cut the fibroid off because it was on a stem on my uterus. Okay. And my healing, my meditation experience, and all of the things that I had worked with and experienced, and all of the energy that was chaotic, and all of these wounds and scary nights and moments I couldn't explain, all of that was leading me to that moment where I had to, everything that I have learned, I had to apply. And I had to really believe in my body's ability to be able to accept and manage through with grace, and that my healing would be graceful. And it was. Aside from a complication that happened after my surgery, which my stomach basically became numb. It paralyzed. That I had to go back to the hospital for 4 days because my stomach paralyzed from the anesthesia, and I could not eat. I couldn't swallow anything because I would throw up. And obviously, you don't want to. I had a brand new incision, so throwing up would bother me. So all I cared about was, please control the nausea so I don't throw up anymore, and everything else will figure itself out. And I was at the hospital for 4 days until I was able to go home because my stomach was starting to function. That was something else that I had to really understand and not go crazy about, which I'm glad that I didn't. I was very serene about this whole thing. But then I did everything on my own. And then that opened other wounds, because at this point now, I was home from surgery, okay, and I needed help, okay, because first the incision they wanted to open from the belly button down, and then a C-section, the first option, which was the woman, and then the surgeon that I still honor and I have so much love for him. He was like, look, we're going to try to do a small little incision underneath your belly button. And I'm going to do my best to, not do what this woman said. She goes, I don't understand why she would say that to you. He goes, I understand you have a very small body frame, because I'm very small. I have the wrist of a child. I'm very small. I'm a very small person. And the day of the surgery, he tells me, I'm going to try to do a C-section. Okay? And he didn't do what he thought was going to. He didn't think it was going to be like a. He didn't end up doing the incision from the belly button down, and it was nothing as scary as the woman who told me she was going to literally cut like a fish. Okay, and I have a tattoo like on the side where the incision is. He even um he when he glued my incision, he made sure that it would connect perfectly with the tattoo so that it was not uneven. So he had a lot of care for me, and I'm forever grateful for him. Um, but then after I went through all of that, it's when I started to really see the child me, and needing help and not having it, and having two parents. And like, look, for example, my father never went to the surgery. My father never went. I think he only went because my mom. He would drop off my mom at the hospital when I went back for the stomach paralyzing stomach issue, but not because if it was up to him, he would have not gone. But because my mom wanted to go, he would drive her there. But he wasn't there for me at all. Like, at all. I do have to be grateful that he did pay for part of the fee that I had to cover, because I had part of it, but the other part I didn't have, and he gave me the other part. But sometimes the material stuff is not important, even though I'm grateful that, because it helped me get the surgery. But like, sometimes you need it goes beyond material stuff, and his presence was never around, and never even it was like another day for him. He went to work and everything, like. So that's when I started to realize a lot of separation, like the deeper separation between my parents. My sister had just moved the week that I had surgery. My sister moved, so I was by myself, and I started to really see how alone I was, and how invisible I really was. Something that I knew that I had always been. Okay, but all of this is starting to show up because it's part of releasing the energy, releasing that energy that keeps you, that's been living within me, that I've buried and not I wasn't aware of, and all of that starts coming up. So I know that I was supposed to keep meditating, and I would meditate here and there, but I wasn't meditating as consistent, because I got so entangled in all of what was happening in my wounds, and not being seen, and feeling isolated, and not having help when I needed it in surgery after surgery. And there were times that my mom would not even remember to like even make me something to eat. My sister would sometimes she would drop off food for me, because she knew that my mom was not very occupied, and like, or like concerned about me. Like, she made it seem like she was, but the action spoke louder than what she would say. You know what I mean? And it was a rough what was rough was the realization of living with two people that I was painted on the wall for, while I was struggling. Okay. And from there, all these other things started to surface. Like, I started to realize a lot of things. All of my wounds started to come up. A lot of moments of deep isolation, a lot of moments of deep depression, a lot of moments where I was completely disconnected, and a lot of moments of very severe anxiety. All of these things started to come up again, and I would have to like sit with it. At this point, I had already started therapy, and I had been going to therapy for about, it's been 3 years now. And I started to kind of, I kept meditating and having experiences. They were nothing crazy, but it was helping me move energy that I was trying to unravel. And I'm still in that unraveling process. So what I'm saying is that meditation, it will bring you bliss. Okay. But when that life force energy moves, is going to bring you bliss, bring you connection, you're going to see how connected you are to everything, but then you're also going to see all of your wounds unravel. And you have to be ready for that. You have to be ready for that because it can be very detrimental. Okay, I had moments that was I could not function, along with the wave of being it like 41, 42 years old and starting to see changes in my hormones, and that also gets amplified, and then it became like all at once chaotic, because I think at our 40s we start to really realize our all of the conditioning, programming, the things that we keep inside, your moving energy, your body is transitioning, and all of these things have to be let go for a new transition into a new version of yourself. And all of this hits you all at once, like a ton of bricks. It hits you all at once. And sometimes I know that this happens to people unexpectedly when they're not ready. And it's a lot harder. I was never expecting this to happen. And Lumpy Space, one of my subscribers here, did mention to me that my life force energy, Kundalini energy, I don't like to say that it's Kundalini because it has such a negative connotation and like reputation now, that I don't like using that term. But the life force energy actually did not move all the way through. It moved up to my heart and released from my heart. It didn't move up to release from the top of my head. And I think that is the process that I'm in right now, is that I got to move that energy up. I got to direct it up. And I'm in that process of still unweaving and unraveling. So meditation is beautiful because it does bring you stillness, connection, expansion in consciousness. It allows you to be aware, and it starts to also show, like, it helps you release emotions. You don't have to relive them or experience them. They just come up. You don't know what it is, and you cry it out, and that's a release of it. And I think that is beautiful. I will stand by meditation because meditation is life-changing. But when you start to move energy, and that energy starts to move, and all these things start to open, that is the opposite side of the meditation, which you also have to keep the integration of the meditation while you release all these wounds, so that you can work with them in a better way. Unless you don't feel called to do meditation because it might be too much energetically, like it happened to me at the beginning. It was too much. So I had to stop on the meditation, or do meditations that were not designed to move so much energy. That were more easier, more softer for you. So you have meditation is a useful tool to be able to break through and become the best version of yourself, but you have to be ready to face your wounds, because that's the other side of the coin. Once you move that energy and the energy starts moving, all of those things are going to come, and you're going to face them all, and they're all going to show up. And it's going to show up in all ways: physical symptoms, physical manifestations, anxiety, depression, pain, anything you can imagine, it will show up. And you just have to be ready to face yourself. And you're going to have many times that there's going to be so many versions of you that are going to just fall off and fall off and fall off, because the more you connect dots, the more they fall off. So my advice is that if you really want to work with your energy, meditation is the best way. You just have to be prepared to confront all your wounds when the energy is ready to release, and then they will show up, because that is how we grow. That is how we grow and we expand in life. And I know many people are afraid of that, of energy and the unraveling and facing wounds, because then we have to let go of all the masks. And that can be a painful experience, especially if you're going to have physical symptoms where you're going to be scared. But the truth is that you don't have to be scared, because every time you face an aspect of yourself, you are releasing it and letting it go, and it means that you're evolving, and you're evolving more and more and more. And there's always going to be things that you're going to have to work with. But the density that you carry that was inside you is now open, and you're moving through it. And that is a magical part about it. And if you're ready for that, it's going to change your life, and it's going to lead you to where you need to be. And at the end of the day, it's facing fear, because all these things that come up is facing fear. It's the things that you've been afraid of, and they show up. So don't be afraid of your own energy and your wounds. Don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of allowing them to move through you. And know that you're strong to see through them, and to stand anchored, and to confront them, and to move past them, so that you can be the best version of you. That's what meditation does. That's what this energy does. And as scary or chaotic it might look like, it is liberating. Okay, it's a process, but it's liberating, and it will liberate you. I think it's another reason why I say that experience led me here, into talking about my story, explaining what I experienced, talking about life force energy and how chaotic it can be, but it is part of growth. It is part of facing yourself. It's part of seeing you for the first time, and seeing what needs to be worked with, so that you can release, so that you can step into the best version of you. Is accepting all the physical symptoms, and like, if you feel a certain way, obviously you go to a doctor and get checked, because I did that many times. Okay, I did that many times. Hello. And always get checked with your doctor. Okay, every time that I would get checked, they would tell me, oh, you're fine, you have anxiety. So always get checked. Okay, I'm not saying to go by this and pretend that it's all energy. Get checked. But when they tell you that everything comes back fine, you know that it's energy moving through you. You know that it's you confronting you. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. There were so many nights that I was afraid, and I was scared. Scared. Okay? But here I am. Okay? And I understand things so much better. It allows you to connect dots so much easier. It allows you to be yourself, really who you are, and it allows you to see yourself for who you are. So that is the most important part of all this, is you finding your authentic self, and not being afraid of being who you are, and telling your story exactly how it is. And not be afraid of your life force energy, okay? Not be afraid of it. It is an honor to really feel that energy, and be able to experience it in its beauty and bliss, but also when it unravels everything for you, because it's showing you your freedom. Okay, it's showing you your freedom, even though it is scary. It's showing you your freedom. So that is what I want to talk about today. Let me know if you've ever had an experience with your own life force energy, like I call it, which is the energy that lies dormant in your spine and decides to wake up. Many times you might not be ready, or you think you're not ready, but you are, because that energy will always release when you are ready. Even if you think you're not, you are. And it's a matter of anchoring yourself and realizing what is happening, so you can start working through your wounds. And like I said, if you are concerned about whatever symptoms you're having, always get checked, like I did. And if everything clears, then they tell you that it's nothing, that it's anxiety. You know exactly what that is. And it's the unweaving of your wounds that are manifesting in physical form, in emotional form, and it's yourself facing yourself. So let me know in the comments below if you have ever felt your life force energy. Has it ever unraveled for you? And where are you now if that has happened to you? Like, where are you now in your life force energy, and what are you experiencing now? Is it allowing you to move and face your yourself and confront yourself and overcome so that you can be the best version of you. Let me know in the comments below. If you watched all the way to the end, please leave me a little duck emoji, because you guys know that I always am surrounded by ducks, and I had a little duck show up to me here. Obviously you can't see because it was in front of me, but yeah, just let me know. And thank you for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. Like, you guys know this. And I will see you really soon. And I know this video was a little long, but I just had a lot to say about this whole meditation and life force energy stuff. So I just wanted to express and elaborate on that. So don't be afraid of who you are. Be yourself. Stand in your authenticity. That is your superpower. And we have to confront ourselves. Remember that. We have to confront ourselves and face our fears head on so that we can become the best versions of ourselves. The power is in you. You are the source. You got this. I believe in you. And we're in this together. So let's talk in the comments below. Leave a little duck emoji if you reached the end. And I will see you soon.